wah pedal is one of the most iconic effects when it comes to guitar. They've been on countless albums and shaped many musicians' careers. They're almost a part of pop culture, recognizable by people who not only don't play guitar, but don't play music. The wah requires no introduction, even though I've just given it one. But I'm going to say something that might ruffle a few feathers. It's not perfect, and it could be better. But first, let's learn a little bit about the history of the wah pedal. The effect was done many years before there was a physical pedal, by session players messing with their volume and tone controls. But the wah pedal that we know today was born in 1966. Thomas Organ was the US distributor and manufacturer for Vox products. At the time, Vox had a wide array of products, including the Vox Super Beetle amplifier. In the UK, it was a valve amp, and that was quite expensive to make. So, in order to cut costs, Thomas Organ looked at different parts that they could replace for cheaper parts. One such piece was the mid-range boost switch. They wanted to replace the switch that cost about $4 with a potentiometer, which cost about 30 cents. And they asked engineer Brad Plunkett to do it. Brad designed a circuit that was essentially an EQ sweep that was controlled by the pot, and when testing it with a guitar, they got this sound. They knew they had something a little bit more special than just a control on an amplifier, so then the question arose, how could a guitar player control it? Both their hands are occupied. So they took an expression pedal from a Vox organ, put the pot inside, and that was it. The wah pedal was born. So let's take a closer look and see how the mechanism works. To turn on the wah, the player presses their foot down and pushes forward on the toe. The foot switch underneath is turned on when enough pressure is applied. Now the wah is on, the player moves their foot back and forth, which moves a greased up gear which turns the pot, adjusting the EQ sweep. To turn it off, the player pushes down on the toe and disengages the switch. That's it. That's the wah. And there are some positives and negatives to this. Let's start with the positives. They're very easy to adjust and modify to a player's taste. That's why there's so many signature wah pedals. Each has subtle changes which change the characteristics and the sound of the wah. Some are fixed changes, some are adjustable, but they do sound different. That's why Eddie Van Halen's wah sounds very different to Buddy Guy's wah. Different parts, different sounds. There are some drawbacks too though. The wah pedal hasn't really changed physically since 1966, and remember, this design came from an organ expression pedal. There is no LED like on most guitar pedals, so this does result in some people accidentally leaving their wah on when they thought they turned it off. It's a more common mistake than you would think. I ended up doing it multiple times just during the recording of this video. It's a small complaint and it can be rectified relatively cheaply and easily with an LED modification, but it does require a modification. Something that can't easily be modified though, and my biggest gripe with the pedal, is the mechanism that makes it work. I know, pretty big gripe, but let me explain. Pedals get dirty. You put them on the ground, you stand on them, dirt, dust, grime, everything is going to go on them. And in most cases, this isn't really a problem, you can just brush it off. But with wahs, it can be quite a big problem. There is a big, wide, open hole in the pedal where the gears and pot are. Dust, grime, dirt, everything can get in there. And not only can it get into the pot, it can get into the grease that makes the mechanism work. The pedal I have here is almost brand new and has spent most of its life in the box, and somehow I've already got a cat hair in there. I blame you. That has to be cleaned and changed over time. The other issue with dirt and dust is it can get into the exposed pot, resulting in a scratchy pot. It's a common problem that has to be resolved with compressed air, or, in the more extreme cases, a replacement pot entirely. The more advanced wahs come with sealed pots to avoid dirt and grime getting into them, and this can also be an aftermarket modification to any existing wah. My only other complaint with the wah pedal is where you have to engage and disengage it. The foot switch is here, so you have to put the wah into its most shrill sounding position to turn it on or off. It's a small thing, but it is my least favourite sound on the span of the wah EQ sweep. So I said I thought the wah could be better. Let me explain how. In the 1970s the wah pedal was very popular, but these wahs were plagued with failing pots, dirt and grime getting into them. There was no sealed pot at that time. So to eliminate this problem, Morley developed a circuit that required no pots at all. It was an optical circuit. This eliminated the potentially scratchy pot entirely. There is no pot. The circuit is controlled by how much light is let into it. Depending on where the wah is cocked, changes how much light gets into the circuit and changes the EQ sweep. So, no scratchy pot, no greased gears, and they even had an LED so you could tell whether the pedal was on or not. They also took a different approach as to how the pedal would turn on. Instead of having to push down on the toe part of the pedal to turn it on or off, most of their pedals would turn on immediately when you put any pressure on the pedal at all. They were spring-loaded. But then there was also this alternative option that had a switch separate to the pedal, so you could cock the wah at any point that you liked and turn it on there. So objectively, Morley fixed a lot of the issues and problems that a standard wah might face. There's no pots to get dirty and scratchy, there's no grease to have to change and maintain, there's LEDs to tell if it's on or not, and you can turn the wah on at any point in the sweep of the EQ. There are some drawbacks though. They're made like tanks, which would obviously be a good thing, 100% cold rolled steel, but that does make them very heavy, not exactly pedalboard friendly, and also they're much wider than a standard wah. From the 70s till 2019, this was the drawback of Morley wahs. They were big and they were heavy. But they changed this in 2020, discontinuing their older, bigger pedals and coming out with a range of smaller, compact, pedalboard-friendly wahs. So now, on an objective matter, there aren't too many drawbacks of a Morley pedal. But the subjectives matter too. How do they sound? So in this demo, I'm going to compare a Vox V845 classic wah to a Morley power wah. The power section of the Morley is going to be turned off. That's a 20 decibel boost that won't be engaged. We're just hearing the wah sounds. So let's take a listen. Personally, my opinion is it's more situational than anything. I thought the classic Vox wah sounded really good for cleans. It was a little bit more in your face, while the Morley was a little bit subdued. However, for gain sounds, I thought that the subdued approach that the Morley took suited some playing styles better. If I was playing more complex riffs or different faster leads, I kind of want my guitar to be heard and not just hidden behind a layer of wah. But then when I was doing double stops, the classic Vox sounded like an animal, which I loved. So I think it's a different tool for a different thing. So in conclusion, while the classic wah pedal has a number of flaws and the Morley all but eliminates them, there's still something that a classic wah does that the Morley doesn't quite do. The design from 1966 still has a place today. At least I think so. Thank you for watching. That was the video. If you liked it, subscribe. If you liked it, like it. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.